Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. In each show, we share the latest about regulations and things you need to know, plus upcoming conferences and fests, along with interviews with the movers and shakers in this fabulous vape space. Are you looking to get into this ever-expanding marketplace? Do you want to master this industry? Listen up as Norm Bauer, the Vape Mentor, shares it all. And here's your host, Norm Bauer.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. And, of course, you are listening to this after the 4th of July, so happy belated 4th of July. It's July 7th by my calendar here. And in Southern California, of course, we celebrated like there was no tomorrow into all hours of the evening, I might add. And, you know, totally off topic, where the hell do people think it's fun shooting off fireworks at 3 o'clock in the morning? But I'm not going to go down that road. We're here about vaping. I'm here as a representative of Vape News Radio and Vape News Magazine, and we are here to empower and to enable you. So for those of you who are new to the show, thank you so much. This is actually episode number 6, and each episode is divided into 3 different portions. The first one is really kind of like an update about what's going on, and we talk about certainly the big bad elephant in the room, the FDA, and all the other government agencies and regulators that are watching over our industry and trying to keep us, out of trouble. I'm not even sure if that's the right word. And then we also talk about conventions and conferences and different events going on. So let's go ahead and dig right in. Doing something a little bit different today, too, because we don't have any interviews. There was a little bit of a gap in regards to going out and going to different events, but I do have a couple of really awesome interviews set up this week, which will be on the next show. And I'm going to tell you, for those of you who are familiar with NJoy, that's the letter N, J-O-Y, the e-cigarette company, these guys are cutting edge, and I am very fortunate that I'm going to be doing an interview with the representatives from NJoy probably later this week, and that'll be posted live on the next show, which will be on the 21st, I believe, of July. Anyway, let's talk about the FDA. Right after we recorded the last show in June, they increased the amount of time for the deeming regulations to be questioned. And so right now the petitioning process has been extended to August 8th. So what does that mean? So for those of you who are new to the industry, you absolutely must be informed. You must be aware of what the FDA is doing, because when it comes to the regulation of our industry, hell, for the most part, there isn't any. There's certainly no federal guidelines right now. So right now, we are being monitored primarily by the local cities and sometimes by the county, but it's usually the cities. And, of course, we have Chicago and New York and Boston and certainly Los Angeles who decree in their wisdom that you can't vape in public. Well, I'm not going to go off on that rant because I've done that before. And, of course, some states are also getting involved, and they're mandating what you can and cannot do. And the biggest restriction, of course, is the sale to underage minors, and we absolutely encourage you to card everyone and anyone that comes into your shop. But the FDA has been, I'm not going to say conspicuously absent, because they have been very conspicuous and they have not been absent at all, but they've been very indeterminate about what the hell they're coming up with. And there's actually a 9-stage process to go through an FDA regulation that actually becomes law, that's actually decreed into law. We're only at part 4. Now, they have been promising to come out with laws and regulations for the last 3 years, and they're still not done, and they probably have at least another 2 years to run. So, we get a question all the time about, should I open up a vape store? Will the FDA shut me down, et cetera, et cetera? And the truth is it's probably not going to happen. But getting back to the deeming regulations, what's happening right now is they're going through a process of investigation. So any of you, every one of you who's listening, I would love for you to go to one of the websites, the advocacy groups for the vaping industry, and tell them that you absolutely want to encourage the FDA to be, I'm going to say, mindful, use some common sense in the regulations. And, one of the sites that you can go to is CASAA.org. That's CASAA.org. And we've talked to someone from CASAA on the show before. Or SFATA, that's SFATA.org. And, of course, we've had Cynthia Cabrera, who's the executive director of SFATA, on the radio as well. And these are both organizations that are our watchdogs. They are basically protecting us. They are protecting freedom of choice. They are protecting everyone and anyone from trying to get thrown under the bus by heavy-handed regulators. That's really the bottom line. It just so happens that one of the cities here in Orange County that I've mentioned before, I've alluded to before, but I don't mention by name, one of the city council persons down in that city, she's got some type of bug up her ass that she just does not want vape stores in the city. I've gone to the city council and the zoning board twice in defense of one of my clients and another person who was not a client. And the bottom line is that they actually made some common sense decisions. But one of the city council members is still continuing to push this. And I actually was notified because of another city council member, and I said, what's her agenda? Why is she doing this? And she said, well, I think she just wants a platform to talk on because she thinks it's going to get the people riled up. And I said, you know what? I don't think the people care. The average public really doesn't care so much about vaping in public, and they really don't care so much about their city or any city getting involved in the vaping industry. But, politicians being as they are, they're going to do what they want to do. So anyway, getting back to the FDA, if, again, you go to the FDA.gov or go to CASA or SAFADA website, you can send them an email. That probably makes the most sense. You can send a letter for those of you who remember what letters are. And really what they're doing is that they're engaging the public, and they're saying, what do you think? What does the public think should be done in regards to how we regulate? And as I've said from the beginning, as I will continue to say till the end, we absolutely, without a doubt, we absolutely want regulation. What we don't want is restriction. We want guidelines that everyone can adhere to, and in my business and all the other businesses I'm involved with, we're already taking a very high ground in regards to that, and we're making sure that everything we do is going to be within the regulations and the restrictions. Okay, let's go ahead and switch paths here midstream. Let's talk about conventions and conferences. I had mentioned at one of the last couple shows that there was a little bit of a dearth of conventions out there during the summer. It seems like we were very heavy during the spring, and May was very heavy, and June there was a couple of them, and then there really wasn't much on the radar until September. And for those of you who are in Southern California, make a note that the ECC, which is one of the big top dogs, is going to be the first weekend of September. Not in Orange County this time. It's going to actually be in Ontario, I think, at the Convention Center, and I will be out there if you'd like to come out and say hi. And we're going to be out there with Vape News Radio, Vape News Magazine, and also with my business, VapeMentors. But what ended up happening is that there was an event in Massachusetts. The Springfield, Massachusetts, had an event about a week and a half ago. And so here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting, guys. About 2 years ago, you only had a very, very small handful of conferences and conventions all over the country, and they were in the big mass markets. Las Vegas for one, New York for two, Orange County for three, and there was probably only, if you go back to maybe 2012, there was probably 4 events in the entire nation. Now, you literally can't keep track of them because they come out of nowhere. And so it's kind of permeating down into some of the smaller cities. So the New England event happened about a week and a half ago in Springfield, Massachusetts. This was a free event, and I ended up talking to the promoter this morning, and we're going to have a longer conversation later today because these guys are out generating conferences all over the country, so you can be sure I'm going to have some words with him. But it was a 2-day event. They had about 1,000 people each day, so about 2,000 collectively, and about 60 vendors. Now, for those of you who have been to some of the larger shows like in Chicago or Las Vegas or Orange County or what have you, that might seem small, but understand, we're talking New England, and it just so happens I have 2 clients in New England, which is traditionally very conservative, very puritanical, probably more religious than a lot of other parts of the country. I mean, let's face it, that's where the country started back with the Pilgrims and a very, very conservative mindset. And now you have vaping conferences. You have vaping conferences that are spreading into New England, and it just so happens that the promoter of this significant event is also going to be doing one in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that's going to be in October. Tennessee, Kentucky, by the way, all those states, I'm going to call them the tobacco states, North Carolina, getting a lot of lead generation from those states. We're getting a lot of people who are seeing that there's a lot of people who are smoking, as in tobacco, and they don't want to smoke tobacco, and so they're looking for alternatives. So you're seeing a pretty nice little bump of locations in, I guess it would call the lower northeast area. And some of the states that have been heavy in the last couple of months, like Alabama, Georgia, Florida, they're still going, but they're not really going crazy like they were. I think that the market is kind of finding its waterline, so to speak. But here's an interesting one that just was brought up to me last week, and it's in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City, home of the Mormons. Utah, of course, is a highly, highly, highly Latter-day Saints state. And so here's what's interesting. You are going from New England, which is, again, very religious, to Salt Lake, which is extraordinary religious, and it's called the VIP Vape Street event. And I will be there. So if you are listening to this before July 25th, I will be out there, and I will be speaking, and Vape News Radio and Vape News Magazine will be there. It's going to be held on the grounds of Utah State University. And here's what's interesting. This is going to be the first all-outdoor event. So far, most of the events have been under, anything from small to medium to very, very large venues, including the Long Beach Convention Center where I spoke last October and kicked off my business. So this is going to be an outdoor event. So for those of you who are within a reasonably close drive to Salt Lake, and that's pretty much anything from Southern California up to Seattle and inland as far as maybe even North Dakota. If it's a good 1.5 days drive to Salt Lake, this is going to be an interesting event. It's not going to be a mega. It's going to be primarily geared towards education. And again, some of the unique things that they're doing here is it's going to be all outdoors, and it's going to be held on the grounds of Utah State University. Again, what's really interesting here, and when I first found out about this, is I thought, wow, is there any place in this country where the vaping movement is not presenting itself? And the answer is not that I have found. I have not spoken to anyone in the state of Alaska, but I think for the most part I have spoken to or written to or have been contacted by someone from probably every single friggin' state in the country. And, of course, some states are more promising if you want to open up a location. Some of them are becoming a little bit more of I call it a slugfest, because that's really what it is. And especially here in Southern California, as I've mentioned before, we are seeing businesses that are closing. We are seeing businesses that were very fortunate because, as I said before, this industry is very forgiving of naivety. It's very forgiving of plans that aren't fully flushed out. But as the market is reaching, maybe not saturation point, but it's certainly getting more and more saturated, when you are the only game in town in a city of 30,000 people, you can't help but be successful. But when you are one of five in a city of 30,000 people, it becomes a little bit more challenging. So what does that mean? Does that mean you should avoid this industry? And the answer is hell no. It just means that you have to do it by intention. You have to do it by design. You have to do it not based on emotion, but with a very, very strict business strategy. And so that's the advice I'm going to leave you today, because don't forget, I am the Vape Mentor, which sounds a little arrogant, but the website is VapeMentors.com. And as a reminder, this particular show is sponsored by Below, that's BLO Emporiums, and Below Gourmet E-Juice. Are you looking to open your own shop with a turnkey package? Would you like to develop your own line of juice? You can give us a call at 949-495-6162, or you can always contact me at norm@VapeMentors, that's with an S on the end, .com. Also, I want to tell you, I can't believe I left it until the last couple of minutes. Our website relaunch was a couple days ago on the 4th of July. So if you've not been to VapeMentors.com, please, please, please go tell me what you think. If there's anything you like, if there's anything you don't like, if there's anything that's missing, if there's any links that aren't working. It was a major project, of course, to transfer everything over, but we've got 13 special reports on there on lots and lots of different things. And one of the things that is on there is the top 7 questions to ask before you open your vape shop. And you know what? That's a little teaser, because when we come back in Section 2, in lieu of an interview, I'm actually going to be going through the special report, which is called the top 7 questions to ask before you open your vape shop. Are you a little itchy on that button, Paul?
I was trying to get you to, it's like the Academy Awards here. If I play a little music, maybe you'll wrap up here.
All right, don't go away. This is Norm Bauer with Vape News Radio. We'll be back in just a moment.
All right, you've been listening to the one and only Norm Bauer pontificate this afternoon. The Vape Mentor. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio.net.